On today's Locked On Royals podcast, we're going to dive into the Kansas City Royals, bringing back Zack Greinke to the fold and bringing back their beautiful old school retro powder blue uniforms from head to toe. It's beautiful. We're going to talk about that coming up on today's Locked On Royals podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Royals podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Royals. Email the show, lockedonroyals@gmail.com. Subscribe to the show for free across all podcasting platforms, including on YouTube. That way, you never miss an episode. Hit that bell icon as well. Really helps us out, and comment down below, like the video. And we're Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And so you can also find Locked On Chiefs as you get set to watch the Super Bowl this Sunday. Today's show is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel, which is the number one sportsbook in America, the official sportsbook of Locked On. You can go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn right now to bet on that Super Bowl if you want to. But Locked On Chiefs doing a great show 5 days a week talking about the Chiefs and getting you set for the big game. We are kicking back up to 5 days a week next week. So this week will still be a 3-show-a-week pod. We already had a show earlier this week with Javi talking about spring training and how to consume it and how to kind of balance the overreaction versus balancing the overreaction versus the underreaction versus like how do you just simply enjoy it while you're still waiting with bated breath for the actual season to get underway. Also in that one, we had a segment talking about what could they add to All-Star Weekend to make it more fun than just the home run derby, just the celebrity game, just the game itself. And we threw out some great ideas. One idea that we didn't throw out that I commented it on YouTube that I want to give credit to was the idea to have what the NFL did was kick-tat-toe, and then you can play tic-tac-toe with baseballs as pitchers can just nail their spots and play tic-tac-toe in the strike zone. That'd be pretty fun against each other. But on today's show, we're talking Zack Greinke. We are talking about these beautiful powder blue uniforms. And let's start with the fact that the Royals brought back Zack Greinke. This move, I think, is a good one. And I have been on team, hey, this organization has to act more shrewd. This organization has to act as though they are the Tampa Bay Rays, act as though they're Cleveland, Oakland, and have no feelings attached. Just do what's best for the team. Do what's best to win baseball games as a business. And even with the historical value and the emotional value of Zack Greinke, I think that he does help you get better. Will this mean that he helps you win basketball games or baseball games in this case? No. I don't think that he helps you overhaul your baseball win total. I just don't. But I do think that his expertise and willingness to mentor young guys, and from all accounts, the young guys absolutely take a liking to him and absolutely, sit in the bullpen and wait on every word that he has to say to them to help them be better as pitchers. I think that adds a ton of value as you then usher in a new pitching coach. You usher in a new pitching philosophy, top to bottom in the organization, a new skipper, and then he can help those guys adjust to that. Because let's face it, for Daniel Lynch, for Brady Singer, for all these young guys that you're going to rely on, they've never gone through this before. They've never gone through a wholesale change in an organization. They've never gone through pitching changes like this. And Zack Greinke has, both by his own doing of like signing with a new team or demanding a trade or whatever, but he's been in a ton of different spots and has had to learn how to adjust to what his new team wanted. And he can teach that to the younger guys. I think that on the field this year, it helps you. I think that he helps you on the field with your rotation, both as an individual pitcher, like he himself makes the rotation better, but also, like I just mentioned, he helps you mentor these young guys that, it's great that Brady Singer hit. You have to get someone else to hit at least to save that draft class, that 2018 draft class, in order to allow yourself to survive instead of tearing it all down to the studs, which we're going to talk about on next week's show. It has to come at the cost of one of these arms popping. And so to give them another resource, to give them another avenue to get better in the form of Zack Greinke, I think is great. I think that this move is great. And then from the emotional side of things, obviously Zack Greinke is one of the best pitchers in the Royals history. And for someone my age, one of the best players, if not the best player to play in Kansas City in our lifetime. Won that Cy Young. There's arguments for a few different guys. I think it's really him or Salvi being the best player in my lifetime. But still, I think it's cool that he apparently loves Kansas City and this organization. And of course, the fan base loves him. And this is a guy that I think will make the Hall of Fame. And it'll be yet another Royals cap in there, because right now it's only George Brett. And, I think that you'll get Zack Greinke in a Royals cap in the Hall of Fame. I think that Salvador Perez should make the Hall of Fame. I know that that's kind of a hot take in the advanced stat community and really just in baseball communities in general. I think that he should make the Hall of Fame because just the catching position itself is so shallow that if you don't put him and Molina in, you're just never going to put a catcher in there ever again. So I think that kind of puts another Royal in the Hall of Fame. And then hopefully, who knows what can happen past that with these young guys in the minor league system. Obviously no one would project them to be a Hall of Famer, not even Bobby Witt Jr., but could happen technically. So I think that it's just great to have another historical figure in Kansas City, especially whenever you consider that baseball has skipped multiple generations now. Like Kansas City's in a rare spot where they literally won a World Series in 2015, but because it was only a 2-year stretch of good baseball, that it's still skipped that generation of Royals fans. Instead of allowing it to grow and breed Royals fans for the future. So they got to get back to it. They got to get back to winning baseball games sooner rather than later. And this is going to be another year where they don't win a ton. But this can be a year where they show good direction for the first time since winning the World Series. And that's an important part because you have a new GM, you have a new coach, you have a new have a new pitching coach, you have a new manager. And then you're going to call up these young guys and let the young kids play this year. There's not going to be Ryan O'Hearn and all these guys blocking him. And honestly, past the trade deadline, there shouldn't be guys like Hunter Dozier blocking them. So I think it'll be awesome. I think it'll be awesome to see this team play this year. And again, I know that spring time makes everything feel all warm and fuzzy, and then that happens to the best of us. I get accused of being very, very pessimistic with Kansas City, and I would just present to you, could you blame me considering what I've seen in my lifetime as a Royals fan? But it happens every spring where we all, including me, get very excited. But I think that this is different. I think that this is truly different where we're excited while also not expecting a big win total or a magical playoff run. And I'll tell you why you should still be excited despite understanding that they're not going to make the play-in. I mean, not going to make the playoffs coming up. But first, I want to tell you right now about our good friends over at FanDuel, folks. FanDuel is incredible. FanDuel is the awesome sportsbook, the number one sportsbook in America, and you can access it by going to FanDuel.com/lockedon. It's the only app that you need for your Super Bowl party. Go check it out today. They have so many great options for you. You can get the Super Bowl 57 no sweat first bet whenever you go there, and you can make your first bet. And if you do not win, they're going to give you up to $3,000 back in bonus bets which is an incredible offer for you to take advantage of. And these are just some of the things you can do at FanDuel because it's safe, it offers fast and instant payouts for your winnings. You can bet on the money line, you can bet on the point spread, you can bet on prop bets, you can bet on everything. So if you just take a trip right now to FanDuel.com/lockedon and claim your no sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57 by going to FanDuel.com/lockedon, you can then bet on the Super Bowl. And we all know that currently, as it stands right now, the Chiefs are 1.5 point underdogs against Philadelphia. Yeah, I'm going to take Mahomes as a dog. I just am. So let's just bet on the Chiefs right there. You can also bet on an MVP, and right now the quarterbacks are tied for the MVP favorites at plus 130 for each, Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes. You can bet on scoring props, like what position will score the first touchdown. Running back is the favorite right now at plus 175. You can bet on passing props, defensive touchdowns, special teams. Mahomes and Jalen Hurts each have their own prop bet category. They have so many prop bets to go check out. So go to FanDuel.com right now /lockedon. That's FanDuel.com right now /lockedon. We're back on the Locked On Royals podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Royals baseball. Subscribe for free across all podcasting platforms so you never miss an episode, including on YouTube. That helps us out a lot. And make sure you check out Locked On Chiefs to get you set for the big game. And check out our good friends over at the Locked On Prospects podcast. Lindsey Crosby, a baseball encyclopedia when it comes to prospects. He has you covered over there. He recently did his Royals farm system review heading into this season. He was also on our podcast last week where he made a scorching hot take about Vinny Pasquantino being the 2023 AL batting champion. Why does he believe that for Vinny P? Well, you got to listen to find out. So go back and check that podcast out as well. So before we get into those amazing uniforms, the reason that I think that the Royals have, how do you want to put it, more reason to be optimistic this year versus other years is because that this lineup is gonna be fun. Like I can't sit here and act like I believe in any of these pitchers. I think that Ryan Yarbrough will be a nice addition. I don't think that he's a world beater, obviously. I think that Jordan Lyles can eat innings. I don't think that he's a good pitcher. I think that Brady Singer's awesome. Like I think that Brady Singer has Cy Young potential, but he can't do it alone. I think that Zack Greinke is a fun story and he's fun to watch for nostalgia, but he doesn't move the needle in this day and age. And then past that, I can't tell you that I believe that Jackson Cora will break out and turn his career around. I can't tell you that Daniel Lynch will break out and turn his career around. I can't tell you that Jackson Kowar will break out and turn his career around. I just can't. I don't know if Asa Lacy even plays baseball anymore. And then the prep pitchers are just not here yet. I mean, they're not even on the radar yet. So with that being said, I don't know what you're going to get in the way of pitching. And this is going to make it to where this really fun lineup, on top of being very young. So like, obviously they're going to have some, they're going to have some growing pains and they're going to have some moments where they slump. They're going to have some moments where they're on fire and they're incredible and everything in between those two things because they're so young, but also they're not going to have the pitching support, to allow them to win very much. But watching this lineup day in and day out, I think you're going to see very fun things. I think you're going to see Bobby Witt Jr. have I can't call it a breakout because it's year two, but you know what I mean. If you watch this team last year, he will have a season that more resembles the expectations of last season heading into the year. This time last year, we expected from him. I think that we'll see from him in this upcoming season. And then MJ Melendez, I think, is a fantastic player. Salvador Perez is still hitting home runs on incredibly bad pitches. And Mike Massey, I think, showed a lot at the end of last year. I think that the first baseman, Nick Pratto and Vinny Pasquantino, are both guys that deserve MLB at-bats from day one and deserve them the entirety of the season. You also have Kyle Isbell, who I am a big believer in, and I refuse to get off of the Kyle Isbell, what do you want to call it, of the Kyle Isbell train, if you will. And we just continue to go down a list of young guys. And for the first time in a while, there's young guys at each position that need playing time, like a Nate Eaton. Like there's guys that need playing time, and there's enough to go around in the sense of, yeah, I'm a huge Kai Lisbell guy. Like I love Kai Lisbell. I think he's going to be really, really good. You might think Nate Eaton's going to be better. And so you might think that Nate Eaton is a better option for Kansas City. To where, that's your guy. I like Mike Massey. I like Drew Walters. I think that it's going to be an awesome lineup, top to bottom, that present to you a plethora of options. And again, given that they're all 25, 22, 23 years old, they're going to have moments where they just struggle. They're going to have moments where they just can't buy a hit. But they're also going to have moments where they show and flash that star potential and flex their muscles a little bit. And so I'm really encouraged by the fact that the Royals are heading in this direction. I think they're going to have a solid enough bullpen. I do. And it just comes down to, what does that pitching do? Can anyone turn the corner? Can anyone give you something besides Brady Singer? But another reason for optimism is that I think that you're truly heading in a better direction from the ownership. You're heading in a better direction from the GM office. You're heading in a better direction from the managerial office. I really think they're heading in a better direction from your pitching philosophy, both at the major league level and also now trickling down to the minor league level, which is something that Lindsey Crosby also told us about on last week's podcast. And so from top to bottom, on and off the field, I think that this team is getting better. And while it may not reflect incredibly in the win-loss column, I think that the best case scenario for this team, and we'll expand on this next week, is like a Baltimore Orioles season from last year where they were really fun, really competitive. They won more games than anyone thought that they would win, but they still missed the playoffs. I think that's the best case scenario. But I think that this is going to be a team that you can have fun watching. And then you head into next offseason. Seems like the ownership wants to spend some money next offseason. You improve upon this, and you then make yourself, right, a more polished product, and then make that postseason push, hopefully, given the number of postseason spots that are available nowadays. So that everybody in the postseason nowadays. So coming up, let's talk about these beautiful uniforms and why this is a fantastic move for Kansas City. We're back on the Locked On Royals podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for joining us on today's Locked On Royals podcast. Subscribe for free across all podcasting platforms so you never miss an episode, including on YouTube. Check out Locked On Chiefs 5 days a week. Check out Locked On MLB for the national landscape of baseball right now. And check out Locked On MLB Prospects for the baseball prospect encyclopedia, Lindsey Crosby. Wow. As if this offseason couldn't get any better. I've been telling you that this offseason has been fantastic, and I did not know that this was coming. The reason this has been a fantastic offseason so far is because, folks, by the way, all we did last season was complain, me included, hand up, me included, that they have a terrible GM, that they have a terrible manager, that they have a terrible pitching coach, they need to play the young guys. That's all we did was complain about that last year. What have they done this offseason? They've cleaned house from the GM to the pitching coach to the manager. They got all new personnel in there, and all of them seem to be more in line with how this team should be built in the right direction. They trade away Michael A. Taylor. They trade away some of the guys that were blocking, your youngsters, getting rid of the Ryans. They accomplished the big flaw of last year's team. They did it. And then, oh goodness, they didn't stop there. They took a massive, and I mean massive, win on social media the other day. Let me tell you something. They brought back the powder uniforms. Jerseys and pants. Finally, they're back. I play MLB The Show. That's the only uniform combination I use. Jersey and pants. And I wish that they'd bring back the powder blue hat with the royal blue brim. I wish they would. Now that's asking for a bit too much, I think. But I'm just so over the moon excited about bringing back these powder blue uniforms. And for the first time in franchise history, they're going to wear them at home on opening day. So as if opening day is not good enough or exciting enough, go there to see the freaking powder blue uniforms, which are incredible and awesome and perfect. This has been a mighty good offseason for Kansas City. Mighty good. And we'll ramp back up to 5 days a week next week. We're going to have another show for you tomorrow, though, talking about the Kansas City Royals signing Aroldis Chapman in the bullpen. I think that the bullpen is an interesting topic whenever we talk about this team. We've talked today about the lineup extensively and how excited I am for this lineup. But this bullpen is at a crossroads. It's at a crossroads. And we'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. Until then, be good and be good to one another.